Story 1. 500 humans on the entire Earth? Your odds of ever seeing another person in your lifetime are remote. Assuming you are on foot, that is a pretty limited range. Find a renewable food source, find some kind of shelter, and find a way to pass the time. Story 2. 500 humans over 7 continents. Well, I guess have a drink and wait for death. I had a hard enough time finding people I like when there were billions. No power, no internet, no medicine, and canned food for the rest of your life. Not enough genetic diversity to perpetuate the species without going to another continent, which has its own inherent risks. So, have a drink and wait for the world to reclaim itself from another extinct species. Maybe I could get caught up on my reading if my eyes don't somehow get worse as I get older. Story 3. I assume we are all spread out. I will probably try to stockpile as many resources as possible while finding knowledge and media to preserve. I might go into people's houses looking for pets that are locked up. I have ethical dilemmas about whether I should release non-native and dangerous animals from zoos. Elephants should be fine to release. I will probably only have a few months before fuel becomes unusable unless I can figure out how to remix it. Hopefully, electronics will still work. I will gather several generators. I will probably spend a lot of time reading about electricity and subsequently risk dying trying to preserve it. Story 4. Are all 500 people in the same location or spread out? Do I need to start digging 8 billion graves? Was a nuclear weapon detonated? Should I treat the world like it is a Fallout game? My first course of action would be to find a secure location where I can try to come to terms with what the world has become. Trust no one at first. Even with 500 people left, someone will want the power to control the remaining 499 people. Story 5. I have read plenty of post-apocalyptic novels, and this one remains one of my favorites. It also closely relates to the scenario you are describing. The Last Tribe by Brad Manuel. Story 6. Assuming I have already executed my bug-out plan, I am lying in my hammock playing Pokemon on my solar-charged phone while I have a fishing line in the water. Stuck at work when World War III hits? You might as well die in a Burger King. Story 7. Letting my dog go on a long walk without the leash, exploring wealthy people's homes, and wandering around. Feeling very depressed. I don't have what it takes to survive in this situation. I will gather as much food as I can safely store and try to make it last as long as my dog lives. Story 8. Do not let this distract you from the fact that Hector is going to be running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines. In addition, he just came into Harry's and ordered 3 T66 turbochargers with nitrous oxide system and a Motec system exhaust. Story 9. Walk to New York City and find the remains of the Statue of Liberty. Then repeat the end of Planet of the Apes. We finally did it. You maniacs. You blew it all up. Damn you. God damn you all to hell. If we ended civilization this way, we were too rotten as a species to be worth trying to save. Story 10. At 500 global population, I will probably never see another human being again. So it is looting, gardening, and ranching time until I die. Even if I did see someone again with a population that low, the odds of another person being hostile are quite low. There is no group to protect at those numbers. We would be too sparse to fight over any kind of resources, and any resources left would be abundant enough to support both of us. Even in an apocalypse of the Walking Dead variety, you would still need a global population of a couple million to run across anyone who wants to kill you for what you have. Story 11. Drive around and let as many animals as possible out of captivity. I cannot take care of all of them, but they would get a fighting chance. Imagine the poor dogs locked inside for weeks while they starve to death. Also, domestic animals are very useful, so I have to do what I can to preserve domesticated species for future generations. Story 12. Make a headband out of kelp to breathe underwater and propagate an oceanic city. Become like King Trident, except I will call myself Testicles, deity of the sunken plums. I will domesticate sea cucumbers for companionship and put starfish on my nipples. Story 13. Die and not by choice. Because if only 500 people in the world are left, literally everything I have learned to rely on or know how to do in this world would have long broken down. I would make it a month at most in my own estimations. Even the most hardcore survivalists in this world would overestimate their abilities because of how globalized we all are. Mistakes would have no safety net. Eat one bad thing and you face a deadly end with dysentery. Story 14. Help establish a matriarchal society. I am a man, so I would probably end up as a laborer, but I think humanity 2.0 would progress better if masculine control did not evolve into capitalism and colonialism. Story 15. That is highly contingent on whether my husband and cats are alive. If they are not, make the count 499 because forget that life. Story 16. Okay, so 23 people are alive in the United States, one for every 2 states. I am finding the nearest farm with greenhouses, barns, live water, and good pasture. I will get a truck and stock trailer and round up heritage turkeys, chickens, pigs, and some breeding stock for Angus cows. Then I will set up solar power for the farm. Once complete, I will move on to stocking ammunition, firearms, liquor, medical supplies, and securing power for the local library to maintain heating and cooling. Next, I will acquire heavy equipment to dig a pond and stock it with fish while fuel is still good. Finally, I will collect and set up a shortwave radio. That is it. Maybe I will find a couple of people in my lifetime, or I will not. I have food, hopefully a nice dog, work to keep me busy, books, and bourbon. Lots of bourbon. Story 17. Being female, I would probably take my own life because I would not want to be forced to breed against my will. I feel no obligation to repopulate the earth. Story 18. 500 humans is nowhere near enough to ensure robust genetic diversity. So just do it for the pleasure of it instead. Story 19. My first course of action. Live more and work less. I would give up the farm. Industrial farming is more resource intensive than I can manage alone. I would open the gates to the pastures and let the cattle roam freely. If they don't wander too far, I would continue looking after them the best I can. There is no point in baling hay, servicing tractors, or keeping up fences. I will be done with all that work. Afterward, I would take what I need. Liquor, ammunition, whatever catches my eye. Books too, since electronic entertainment will have a short lifespan. I might as well engage in my firearm hobby during the day and drink after dark. Catch up on my reading between times. Third, hunting season is open. I will shoot what I want, eat the best cuts of meat, make some jerky, and enjoy good food with my drinks. I know my local edible plants, so I might prevent scurvy between the garden and foraging. With only 499 other humans left on Earth, we have entered the extinction phase and my lifetime is reduced to a matter of mere years at best. I might as well spend the rest of my time doing the things I like to do. Story 20. Start scouting all of the abandoned properties to see which mansion and estate I will be calling home. Story 21. According to this analysis, we all die within a generation, so I am going to maximize personal comfort and enjoyment, with the means to say goodbye on my terms when my body begins to fail. Story 22. If the 500 were spread out around the world, the odds that we would never see each other would be very small. Story 23. Move into Costco. Gather resources from Lowe's and Home Depot as needed. Live out the rest of my life. With 500 people left in the world, the chance of encountering or fighting with others is negligible. Story 24. I would enjoy the peace and quiet. There is a great chance that none of those 500 people are within a 500-mile radius of me. I would probably stock up on fuel stabilizer and enjoy my pick of the litter for cars. I would live off frozen and canned food until I eventually die. I would spend the free time traveling the country. It would not be like there are speed limits or traffic anymore. Story 25. I guess making it 499. Power and water will not work or will fail shortly. Nobody controls the power plants or water facilities. No people to grow or produce food. You would need to live off packaged food for some time. Fruit will spoil after a short time. Being alone if there are 500 people around the whole world. No access to medical treatment. Story 26. My first and only course of action is to continue decomposing because there is no way I am one of them. Story 27. Okay, that is a lot of dead bodies decomposing all over the earth. Good luck surviving the inevitable diseases that arise. Story 28. First course of action. Eliminate any remaining humans I come across. If humanity collapsed from over 8 billion to 500, it was not a fluke. It was the culmination of centuries of bad decisions. We do not deserve another chance. Let the Earth heal. Let the other species rise. Maybe this planet deserves a break from us. No rebuilding. No redemption. Just closure. Story 29. At this point, I would not bother repopulating the world. The place is a nuclear wasteland, and our descendants will probably have 4 eyes and gills after mutation and possibly crossbreeding with the surviving animals. Story 30. Anything necessary to ensure humanity does not succeed. It is time for a superior species to try. It is definitely not humans. Story 31. Plant 1/3 of the bags of Hungarian blue poppy seeds I bought in bulk for 90% off at my local lawn and garden store. Connect with nature while growing the crop. After harvest, organize a group of military veterans to distribute my exclusive product, poppy seed bagels, for profit. Story 32. I would stay put in San Francisco. There is no chance of death from exposure to the elements. There is no chance of running out of shelter, packaged food, bottled water, clothes, cars, or boats. There are plenty of libraries to keep me entertained and teach myself how to sail, fish, practice horticulture, and provide first aid. There is abundant solar infrastructure and batteries. There are many orchards and fresh snowmelt in the surrounding counties. There is a decent chance that if anyone remains in the western United States, they would pass through San Francisco. Since there is plenty of everything to share, there would be no reason to worry about being raided or harmed. Aside from the devastation of losing my partner, it would probably improve my daily life. Story 33. No infrastructure or staff remain to produce my medication, so I will step away and let the 499 remaining individuals manage this situation. Story 34. Yay! Anthropology graduate here. First of all, that puts us at the bare minimum to prevent genetic drift. 50 is the minimum breeding stock, and 500 are required to prevent genetic drift. Even assuming everyone is fertile and willing to reproduce with others in the same place, the best option would be some in vitro fertilization or sperm donation early on. I would set up a few teams, one for agricultural planning, one for science with a focus on health, one for shelter and security, one for scavenging, generalists, reporters, and communications, and one for culture, harmony, and law. We all need to stay sane and agree to some basic rules. Everyone must keep learning and salvaging as much as possible. For short-term survival, we need medics, basic medicines, and access to a lot of clean water. Textile production, especially skins in my area, will become a requirement faster than most people realize. We need to save as many essential medicines and knowledge of reproducing essential medicines as possible, focusing on midwifery and infection control. Since we are in Australia, I would like to get some antivenom and set up some solutions around that if possible. Wildfire prevention will be a major issue. Probably just do a lot of backburns and set up fences for goats to create a barrier. I also plan to round up goats, Maremma dogs, border collies, and horses, and raid the house with homing pigeons in the northern suburbs. I will also raid libraries, universities, and museums to save what I can. I would set up security and infection protocols before establishing communications, probably using light semaphores. Story 35. Time enough to finally read all those books I do not have time for now. I will go to the library and sort and stack up all the good ones. I have plenty of food and shelter, but best of all, plenty of time. Time enough at last. Story 36. Enjoy the empty surf breaks to have some space while I mourn the loss of my friends and family. Then figure out a way to humanely care for as many domestic animals as possible. I am lucky my town has fresh water and ample food supplies to sustain me. Story 37. Just to clarify, I am not suicidal. I like my life. 500 people is not enough to repopulate the earth. Also, most probably, we would not have the capacity to return to our previous lifestyle, and I do not want to live without modern commodities and conveniences. Story 38. My partner and I already discussed this scenario. We would get a large recreational vehicle, Visit any available pet stores, stock up on dog and cat food, and find any surviving animals as soon as possible. Story 39. Assuming there has been only localized or minimal mass destruction, I do not live anywhere likely to be targeted by any weapons of mass destruction. My first course of action is establishing access to basic necessities, securing shelter, gathering short-term food supplies, ensuring long-term food sustainability, and finding a way to collect, filter, and purify water. These three goals will take the majority of your time and energy for the foreseeable future. Once secured, you can then start luxuries like electricity and expanding resources for sharing with others. Story 40. I guess? If we apply any realism to this, I might as well just be the last person alive. I certainly would not be traveling hundreds of miles to find someone. If we assume these 499 people are living in the same area as me, then I would probably try to start a cult. If the people are dumb enough, it should be pretty easy. Story 41. Is 500 enough for repopulation? Are they half female and half male? Are they scattered around the world or concentrated in one, perhaps unbombed village? Are they alive but injured? What is the state of the Earth? Is it post-nuclear war? Will we probably live a few months and then die from radiation exposure? Or is there another outcome? Story 42. One of get to farming, or get to fighting, based entirely on the male-to-female ratio. I am a guy. Mostly women. The first one, a generally even ratio. The second one, mostly men. The third one. Story 43. Civilization starts over. There are no societal constructs other than what the group determines. In this situation, I am already dead, and everyone I know and love is also dead. The people who would be alive are likely not on Reddit. If they are part of a select few already in control. So, it is really about what we do with the time between when we find out we are ending and the actual event. Story 44. Dying. 500 humans, unless all of them are together and follow very careful planning, still is not a viable breeding pool and will likely end with a few generations slowly dwindling away. I would skip out rather than hope to raise children in that world. Story 45. Live the rest of my days like Wall-E, but in a rural lakeside cabin. World War III would not mean the entire landscape is immediately evaporated, but a large percentage would be affected. There would probably be patches of untouched land in very rural areas, at least from the explosions themselves. My first course would be to move inland, maybe somewhere mountainous. If there were any working cars strong enough to tow a trailer, I would raid any standing warehouse along the way for equipment, food, and entertainment. If it is a nuclear winter and the sun is blocked out, then I do not know. The 500 people would likely die a few years in after all the plants die, if they do not freeze to death. It is a fun question, though. You would probably never see the other people, but my answer would be to find comfort immediately. Story 46. Raid a pharmacy. If the world is still livable, I have antibiotics, painkillers, bandages, and other supplies. If not, at least I have some new things to try. Story 47. Destroying every piece of religious text is not justified. If the religion is real, then no one should have an issue with it because all other religions would be gone, and God would ensure that his word is spread. Story 48. Why is everyone saying make more humans? Maybe you just attracted the breeding kink, guys, but wouldn't you want to find a way to survive? Story 49. Eliminate every existence of religion. Temples, books, music sheets, DVDs, everything. So it cannot be used as a control method ever again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.